Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Ladies Study Group in Kolkata, I'm delighted to welcome you all to our webinar today. These extraordinary times have been such a unifier and a leveler too in so many ways, because whichever part of the globe you live in, or whichever part of society you belong to, the fear of the coronavirus spares no one, and we are all at equal risk. And now, with COVID 19 truly at our doorsteps here in India, this conversation today has become so relevant for each and every one of us. While there is an overdose of information on the subject, whether it's on the internet, our television screens, and of course, WhatsApp University, what we at Ladies Study Group have planned for all of you today is something very interesting. We have taken advantage of the webinar format and crossed not only local, but state and national borders too. And we have brought our panelists to you. So, without wasting any more time, let's begin with the real stories and the first hand experiences that our speakers are going to share with us today.
Dr. Harish, first to you. You're an infectious disease specialist, vast experience in viruses and how infections happen and how the body responds to it. Can you tell us a bit more about COVID-19? There's a lot of information out there, but it tends to swing between, oh, it's just the flu, to, oh, this is the worst thing that has hit planet Earth since probably the Spanish flu. So where are we on this, and how do you square that circle?
So that's a great question, and I think I'm going to try and make it simple so people get a handle on this whole issue. It is a coronavirus. We've seen other coronaviruses before. In fact, common colds that we get on a regular basis are caused by coronaviruses. Coronaviruses have a very simple, the reason they're called coronaviruses is they have these spikes like a crown on the surface, and that's what takes the name coronavirus, a crown. Now, the ability of this crown to attach to certain cells in the body determines what kind of infection coronavirus causes. Most of them can attach to some receptors on the respiratory tree, whether it's in the throat, whether it's in the windpipe, whether it's in the lung, and then subsequently other tissues of the body. This coronavirus, COVID-19, that originated in Wuhan, China, the current pandemic, where it was first diagnosed, is a little bit different. And why it's different is because not if the attachment is the same. So the attachment proteins are different across coronaviruses, but it attaches to the ACE2 receptors, which exist in the oropharynx, in the throat, and also in the lung. There are very few, if any, receptors of attachment for this virus in the bronchial tree, the windpipe, so to say. So that leads to certain specific manifestations of this disease. Once the virus attaches, it has to get internalized into the cell, multiply, and secondarily get released and then infect other cells. So it goes from the throat into the lungs. Once it gets into the lungs, it causes what we call pneumonia. So it's a viral pneumonitis, but that lasts for a few days. Beyond that, what this virus does is extremely unique, which leads me to believe that there is nothing like this we have ever seen in the world. And that is true. When it gets into the lung cells, after it causes pneumonia, it creates a glycoprotein. It's a protein compound that does something to the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So the human body, which is designed to have blood flow, take oxygen from the lungs to the other tissues, that whole functioning is disrupted because the body cannot absorb oxygen in this hemoglobin and then deliver it to the tissues actively. So only passive diffusion of oxygen is going on, which is very little for the most part. So the body is starved of oxygen. It also leads to inflammation. The body tissues lining the lung get inflamed. That's the endothelial system. Once that happens, it releases an intense amount of inflammatory cytokines. We call them cytokines. They're compounds that, because they're at such high levels, they start causing damage to the lungs, damage to the heart, damage to the brain, damage to the kidneys. There are also receptors for this virus in the GI tract, in the gastrointestinal tract. So colon, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. And that's why you see the diarrheal illnesses. So you're starting, now I think everybody can understand that once this virus attaches to these blood vessel lining cells in the brain, in the heart, you get heart attacks, you get strokes. We have seen a variety of manifestations of coronavirus. So initially starting with a pharyngitis, a throat infection, migrating to a pneumonitis, pneumonia, viral pneumonia, and then everything else. Massive clotting occurs in the whole body. And then that leads to other problems, cytokine release, we call it the cytokine storm, that damages tissues rather than help. We need cytokines to overcome this. We know that. We need the immune system to try and fight this virus. But then when the immune system becomes overactive, it does more damage than harm. So you have to control that. And then, of course, the body then clears the virus over time. We overcome it, we become immune, we develop antibodies, which start to happen on day 7 of the infection and then rev up on day 14. And then it takes about 3 or 4 months for you to achieve peak antibody levels, which then causes resolution of the infection. So a very unique process of infection that we have never seen with any virus ever in the history of mankind.
And at that point, I'd just like to bring in Dr. Sunita, and you're a trained pediatric cardiologist. And one unique feature, as Dr. Harish was mentioning, amongst the many unique things about COVID-19, is that we don't find too many children getting it. Is it true that children don't get it? Or is it just that they don't show or manifest any signs and symptoms of it? Is it unique from other viruses in children? Or is it something we're missing, or is it too early to say?
I think, initially, in the initial days, the science and research kind of felt that children don't get it. But over the last few months, we have come to understand that kids can get it as well. So it's not that they're necessarily immune. It's just that it seems to be a lower incidence in children. There is in kids something we call Kawasaki disease, which has been around for many years, where no one's really understood what the cause of Kawasaki disease is. It's kind of a whole body inflammation, and then it disappears, but then it impacts the coronary arteries. So they were seeing a very similar thing in kids with COVID, where they're getting this, what Dr. Harish described, as inflammation, where these kids are presenting with undefined causes, ill-defined causes of this inflammation. So I would say right now, fortunately, it seems like kids are somewhat protected. For what reason, I don't know. But it's not that it's unheard of. You can still get it in children. So it's important, therefore, obviously, to take the same precautions that one can do to try and prevent it and boost up immunity and so on.
I'm happy to say I've been tested now many times, both for nasopharyngeal swab and for serology, and I'm negative. So despite the intense exposure of 800 plus patients, 1300 plus visits over the last 4.5 months, I'm still negative. So personal protective equipment and personal protection, what we described on a personal level, does work. I was drinking hot water every 3 to 4 hours because I said, if something got into my throat, it has to stay there for 3 to 4 days before it gets into my lungs. I'm going to kill it there with hot water. So I do that. I also forgot to mention, I do haldi milk at night, every night. And I've done that for 25 years. And I have to say, touch wood, I still haven't taken a single day off for sickness in the last 26 years that I've been an infectious disease doctor. Haldi milk is something that is well described. So, taking 1 teaspoon of haldi in a quarter cup of milk at night and sipping it so it coats your throat. Turmeric has now been shown in many studies to actually kill the virus on contact. So, that's what I did. I've been doing it for 25 years, 26 years now, and I'm continuing to do it. So that was me with the personal protective equipment. I didn't send you the picture of my hazmat suit, which I then put on for the last couple of months. Not anymore now. Now we are down to much lower levels of virus. So.
What is the situation in Delhi, Dr. Karan? How is it? There's so many cases we keep hearing about in Delhi. So how is Delhi dealing with the situation?
Right. So we are about 2 weeks behind Mumbai. Mumbai did see a huge rush of patients, cases that we had. It's not getting any more severe. So yes, the numbers are increasing because the testing has been ramped up. A lot more patients are now going into home quarantine because they are very mild and in many cases asymptomatic. So yes, I think we have to get beyond just looking at numbers as the only metric of how good or bad this disease is turning out to be. But yes, it is going to be a challenge for us for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I think we are 2 weeks behind Mumbai is what our rough estimate is. We are seeing some bits of plateauing in Mumbai, so I think we should also catch up with them by the first week of July, and hopefully start seeing a decrease in numbers.
And Sumiti, we have a question for you from Anuradha Kanoria. She wants to know a little. I know you've spoken about the stigma, but can you tell us a little more? There is this huge stigma about people coming out and talking, and your story is so inspiring. Can you share some more light on this for us?
Okay, so I hail from Ahmedabad, which is a small town relatively, and like I said, I was the second patient. When I was in, and by the time I was declared positive, within the next 1 hour, we had WhatsApp forwards going left, right, center for me, not just me, but also the index patient. So I knew what is going to happen. There was a lot of rumors floating as to where we had gone. So what I did was I wrote a whole Facebook post about how I isolated myself, all the measures I took while flying to Finland and back. So I just wrote everything, and it was a huge post. It got shared over 1,500 times, and it got quoted in the newspaper. Everything that I did to ensure that my family doesn't contract it from me as well. So I took the bull by its horns. I didn't go for the stigma part. I just wrote everything that was happening to me, let people hear from the horse's mouth as to what I'm experiencing, how I'm getting better. And that also gave a little bit of a positive outlook to anyone who was extremely perturbed or scared with COVID coming to India. So that's what I did. I went the other way.
We are excited to announce that our forthcoming event will be with amazing Salim and Suleiman with singer-songwriter Dhruv Kent on Friday, 26th June. Stay safe and see you all soon.
While we are definitely in the middle of a crisis, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel for all of us. So I think for all our members and the others who tuned in, do follow the suggestions and let's embrace the new normal together. Thank you again, each one of you, for joining us this evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and on behalf of Ladies Study Group, I wish you all a lovely weekend. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.